It's unhygienic old goo, Leo. It's over. Kevin's voice, sharp and cold as a winter morning, sliced through the warm, yeasty air of the bakery. He stood over the stainless steel trash can, holding the large glass jar as if it were a bomb. Inside, the creamy, bubbling sourdough starter, the anima, the very soul of Leo's pastries for 3 generations, seemed to shrink from his disgust. Leo, his hands dusted with a lifetime of flour, felt his own soul shrink. "No, Kevin, please. That's my father's. It's everything." His voice was a rasp, a plea lost under the hum of the new, sterile display case Kevin had installed. Kevin sneered, his business degree a shield against a tradition he couldn't quantify on a spreadsheet. "It's slow. It's unprofitable. We're moving forward." And with a clatter that echoed louder than a gunshot in the old baker's heart, he dropped the jar into the bin. The glass didn't break, but something inside Leo did. For 72 years, Leo Bellini had lived by the rhythm of that starter. He'd been a boy in South Philadelphia when his father, an immigrant with hands like worn leather, pressed a smaller jar into his. "This is us, Leo," he'd said. "It is our memory of the old country and our hope in the new one. Feed it, and it will feed us." And it had. It had fed the neighborhood through lean times and celebrations. The crusty, tangy loaves Leo pulled from the brick oven at 4 a.m. were the stuff of local legend. The bakery wasn't just a business. It was the heart of the community, a place that smelled of comfort, of consistency, of home. The respect he earned wasn't just for his bread, but for his dedication. He was Leo, the baker, a man whose work was an honest expression of who he was. But that world was gone now. After Leo's daughter, Maria, married Kevin, the young man had arrived with charts and graphs, talking of profit margins and brand synergy. He saw a failing business, not a legacy.
He convinced Maria that to secure their future, they had to modernize. The name changed first to the generic and soulless Philly Fresh Bakes. The brick oven was declared inefficient. The old wooden proofing boards were replaced with cold steel racks. And Leo, the master baker, was slowly and quietly demoted. First, he was told to just handle the morning bake. Then, just the prep. Soon he was relegated to sweeping the flour he was no longer allowed to use, an aging ghost in the bright, renovated shell of his own life's work. He would watch Kevin and the new young staff pull perfectly uniform but utterly lifeless croissants and muffins from the new convection ovens. They used pre-mixed, chemical-laden dough that arrived in frozen pallets. The old customers, the ones who remembered his father, stopped coming in. They'd see Leo through the window, leaning on his broom, and give him a sad, knowing nod. The bakery was busier, Kevin's numbers were up, but the soul was gone. The air no longer smelled of history, but of sugar and artificial vanilla. Leo felt a profound and silent injustice. His skill, honed over 60 years, was now deemed worthless, an antique to be discarded like the sourdough starter. Then came the announcement that sent a shockwave of panic through Kevin. Genevieve Dubois, the city's most feared and respected food critic, was doing a series on neighborhood gems, and she had announced on her blog that she would be visiting Philly Fresh Bakes. She was notorious for her discerning palate and her brutal takedowns of inauthentic establishments. Kevin's confidence, so solid and arrogant moments before, evaporated. His quick-bake muffins and factory-made croissants wouldn't fool a child, let alone a critic of her caliber. A bad review from her wouldn't just be embarrassing, it would be financial ruin, undoing all his progress overnight. For 2 days, he paced the bakery like a caged animal, barking orders, trying to perfect recipes that had no heart to begin with. Everything he made was bland, predictable. In his desperation, late on the second night, he was cleaning out the old cool pantry in the basement when his hand brushed against a small, unmarked crock hiding behind a sack of discarded almond flour. He opened it. The familiar, pungent, tangy scent of yeast and history filled the small space. It was a small portion of the starter. Leo had saved it. It was an act of defiance, of hope, of love for what was lost. Holding the small crock as if it were a holy relic, Kevin walked upstairs. Leo was sitting at one of the small cafe tables, staring out at the empty street. He looked smaller, older. Kevin placed the crock on the table between them. The silence was heavy with shame and unspoken words. "I can't do it, Leo," Kevin whispered, his voice cracking. "She's coming tomorrow. I was wrong. I need your help." Leo looked from Kevin's terrified face to the crock of starter. He saw not a chance for revenge, but a chance to breathe life back into the one thing he truly loved. He thought of his father and of his daughter, whose future was tied to this arrogant, foolish young man. He gave a slow, deliberate nod. His triumph would not be in words, but in flour and water and fire. That night, the old bakery came alive. Leo didn't speak. He moved with the quiet grace of a master returning to his art. The sensory details were his language, the feel of the cool, living dough under his palms, stretching and folding with a practiced rhythm. The sweet, fermented smell of the starter waking up, filling the room with the promise of real bread. He worked through the night, a silent teacher, with Kevin as his humbled apprentice, watching, measuring, and for the first time, understanding.
When the first rays of dawn touched the Philadelphia streets, Leo slid 2 perfect golden brown boules from the depths of the old brick oven, which he'd fired up against Kevin's protests. The crust crackled, singing a song of its creation. When Genevieve Dubois arrived, the bakery was filled with a scent she hadn't encountered in years, the authentic, complex aroma of naturally leavened bread. Kevin, pale with anxiety, served her a coffee and a single slice from one of Leo's loaves, with a side of sweet butter. She picked it up, examined the crumb structure, and took a bite. She closed her eyes. The entire bakery seemed to hold its breath. A slow smile spread across her face. In a city of 1,000 bakeries, you have managed to bake perfection. This is not just bread. This is a story. Who is responsible for this? Kevin looked at the formidable critic, then back at Leo, who was standing quietly by the oven, covered in flour, looking more dignified than Kevin had ever seen him. In that moment, Kevin had a choice. He could take the credit and save his brand, or he could speak the truth and save his soul. "It wasn't me," Kevin said, his voice clear and steady. He turned and gestured to his father-in-law. "It was him. I was a fool who almost threw it all away. He is the master." The healing began not with an apology, but with that single act of public reverence. The critic's glowing review, which praised the generational genius of the bakery's hidden master, brought the old customers back and new ones with them. The next week, the sign was taken down. When the new one went up, it read, in beautiful, classic script, "Bellini and Son, a family bakery." The story of Leo and Kevin reminds us that true value isn't always new, shiny, or efficient.
Sometimes the most precious things are the legacies we inherit, the wisdom passed down through generations, and the quiet dignity of a craft mastered over a lifetime. It teaches us that experience is not an expense to be cut, but an asset to be cherished. What family traditions or skills do you believe are priceless? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories are the heart of this community, and if this story touched you, please consider subscribing for more tales of real life and real dignity. Thank you for listening.